if faith is your core principle and you're along the journey and you get to a spot where it's kind of shaky, you're going to have to be so grounded in that faith that it can't be unmoved. And until you're ready for that and you really believe this in this core principle and you're really going for it, until you're in that space, then it's going to be hard for you to continue on that journey. So you have to understand exactly who you are, what matters, what you stand for, what you don't fall for. From there, you can now have the vision, right? So now I can think big because I know my belief system is uncompromised.
Welcome to the SpartanUp DEKA Series on SpartanUp with Jarod Cogswell, Director of Sport, and Yancy Culp, Director of Programming.
What's up, Spartans? Welcome to the DEKA Series on the SpartanUp podcast. I'm your co-host, Jarod Cogswell, along with my brother, Yancy Culp. And today, I'll tell you what, guys, we have two role models that are not only amazing parents, but they are an inspiration to fitness enthusiasts all over the globe. I'm talking about David and Mechelle Freeman.
Today's episode of SpartanUp is brought to you by BetterHelp. SpartanUp listeners can save 10% on their first month by going to betterhelp.com/Spartan.
So welcome David and Mechelle Freeman to the show. David, as you may know, is a former track star, football star, all-around great dad. And I'll tell you what, he has been leading the charge over at Lifetime Athletic Club as their alpha training director for many years now. And Mechelle, what's Mechelle all about? She's just a world-class athlete, former track and field Olympian. And you know what? I looked up something about Mechelle today on LinkedIn. I wanted to get a little more dirt on Mechelle, and I found out this, okay? She's a wife to a rock star, a mom of two superheroes, and she's 2 minutes younger than her older sister. Yancy Culp's got a story about that. And then she's also a daughter to a pretty awesome pair of people.
Yes, thank you. That was awesome intro.
Man, I feel like I was on WWE. Like, right? Oh yeah, brother.
I need to come through the screen.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
That's the way we roll here, baby.
we got to really put Mechelle up on the podium right now, though. Put her up high. Listen, we're gonna go back to 2002, folks.
Oh
wow.
Oh.
When Mechelle and her sister helped win the very first South Carolina Gamecock national champions. That was so cool. I was like, wait a second, 2002 was the very first one.
Yeah.
Lewis twins helped them win the championship there. So then Mechelle dived straight into work for a couple years. And in 2006, she says, whoa, wait a second. I want to go to the Olympics. She walks up to her boss and says, listen, I've got a new plan. I'm going to dive into the next couple of years. The next year in 2007, two-time silver medalist in the Pan Am Games, world champion in 2007, and she's walking out on the track in 2008 in Beijing. I love that story. From 2002 to 2008, national champion South Carolina, dives into work, Pan Am Games success, world championship success, walks on the track in the Olympics, and then 2009, we have the back injury. That was an amazing, it had to be an amazing 7 years for you, my friend.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Now that you wrap it up like that, it was, an amazing ride for me. But that mentality, I've had that my whole life. I think about growing up and my first sport was basketball. And so we were playing basketball and the basketball coach made us try out, do soccer that next year to keep us in shape. And then all of us never played soccer, but we started playing soccer. And then we won the soccer championship that year. So I've always been like, championships come like this. Okay, so that's my mentality. You go out, you say you want to do it, you just go win, you show up, and it all comes together.
Well, hey, Mechelle, obviously an awesome individual career. And I'll tell you what, ever since I met David, obviously I follow him on social media and all the great things that he's doing to inspire the world of fitness and beyond. But the two of you together, I'll tell you, is an inspiration to somebody that's newly married, okay, or newly remarried, I should say. I know Yancy feels the same way, but you guys always are just looking like you're having so much fun, but it's also very purposeful for all the things that you're doing. I mean, I feel the authenticity with what you guys are doing out there in the world. But I wanted to start off just a little bit with your story. How did the two of you meet?
Go ahead, David. Go ahead and tell the story how you came in my DM on MySpace.
Yeah, so it all kicked off on MySpace. Obviously, both having MySpace at that time. If you guys don't know what MySpace is it's like a social network back in the day.
Yeah, the older generation.
But nonetheless, I saw Shell on one of my good friends' page. She was on her top friends. They had a top friend list that you can have that shows up on the main page. And I saw, and she stood out obviously, and she was amazing looking, right? So she caught my eye, or she is amazing looking. Let me say she is. So I ended up sending her a nice little message saying, "Hey, coming by to state the obvious," and only to my surprise, no response. So I didn't get any response on the first one. I didn't really
understand. Like, what does that mean? Coming by to state the obvious. You didn't state anything.
Yeah,
you didn't say anything.
It's obvious that she's beautiful, right? But she didn't obviously pick up what I was putting down. So I ended up coming back with a follow-up. You got to be consistent. We talk about mindset. You got to be consistent, guys. All right. So I ended up doing another post, but this time I did it on her wall, and I maybe had my shirt off, and I saw that kind of caught her eye, because now she doesn't respond. Maybe one of her friends sees it, and now let's see if she says anything. And she became yeah, I played the game, and she was territorial, and she responded, so it worked, guys.
I had that theory did not cross my mind once.
Sure.
I just want to put that out there, ever.
Okay, air quotes if you're not watching. Quotes.
Okay, well, what happened was that he posted a shirtless picture on my wall.
How'd it look?
It was cool enough for me to click on and look more, into his profile. And we finally started talking from there. We've been talking ever since. It just so happened that I was living in New York at the time, still working, and I was moving to North Carolina to start training full time when I just, quit my job. And that's where he was living. He was living an hour away from where I chose to train. So a month after he randomly reached out to me, we were living an hour away from each other, and we've been together ever since.
Yeah.
How many years has it been?
So we've been together since 2006. So what's that?
It's 10 years married this year, and 15 years together.
Yeah. Good math right there.
Yeah.
Hey, the good news is by 1 week in after this releases, 20,000 people will see it on YouTube. So they get to watch you two rock stars do your things, can feel your energy.
Yes.
Yes.
That's cool.
That's what we want.
I got the pink on for Valentine's right now. Just coincidence. That's just the mood I'm in.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I got blue on.
Like that. Okay.
Chill.
So obviously David brought his A game to capture the Olympic sprinter, obviously. So let me ask you guys this. I again, what I was saying about you guys coming across as being very authentic and purposeful about the messages that you bring out to the world. What inspires you about one another?
Oh, I would say with David, it's definitely been his work ethic. I mean, ever since I've known him, he's been very consistent. Like, that's who he is. He's going to do the same thing every day. He'll even eat the same thing every day for a while. He's just a very consistent person. So I am very inspired to this day. And at the same time, it's pressure. It's pressure too, because he has a certain standard of work ethic that he never compromises. And sometimes I'm like, I need a break from that. But he is always living in that. And what you say about authenticity, that's truly who he is. So he doesn't know how to live life any other way. And so he's just always pushing ahead, always living by integrity of his word and showing up. And whatever he asks anyone to do, you can 100% understand and know that he's doing the same thing.
Mine would be Shell's drive. Like, Yancy, you kind of hit on it. Like, when she puts her mind to something, there's no stopping it. Who else do you know quits their job after 4 years of being in an ad agency to pursue the Olympics and then make the Olympic team? And she kind of also says she's always been part of being a championship team.
Champion. This is my whole life, champion.
So the drive, and we're opposite. She's an extrovert. People probably are surprised whenever I tell them this. I'm an introvert. So we really balance each other out. She's my inspiration. She knows that. I do challenge her, but to her point, she's kind of like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, so she has to operate at her own speed, but I always challenge her. We're a good balance for one another. So her drive is what inspires me and motivates me.
David, I got one for you.
Yep.
So, and there's some similarities to my background and yours, and how we found our way to fitness. You're at the you're playing football for Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this long-term goal to eventually make it in the NFL, and you go to play football overseas. You have a criminal justice degree. Okay?
Right.
I was a helicopter mechanic in the Navy, and your criminal justice degree, and both of us eventually found ourselves gravitating towards fitness.
Yep.
And I like to say that it is one of the only careers, and all of us will agree with this. I think that fitness is that one career that you can't fake it. If you fake it, you're not going to ever make it. You're never going to reach your full potential. So from a guy that was pursuing a career in NFL with a criminal justice degree, talk us down the path of, I think, two things, not quite making it to your ultimate, career in the NFL, but eventually falling in love with a long-term career in the world of fitness.
Yeah, I would say that, obviously the ultimate goal was to make it to the NFL. And I share this story with a lot of individuals as far as what you might want for yourself might not be what is set for you in your life and your purpose. So a lot of times we're listening to the narratives of what everybody else is saying around us as far as what it is that you should be doing, whether it's your parents, your friends. So you start to believe in a sense that, oh, this is what I should be doing. Is when you come into your own and you're operating operationally, making sure that you're living on your purpose and your why. I discovered that when I was overseas. And the reason why I came about that is because I was isolated from a lot of those distractions. I was isolated from the social media, the TV, the family and the friends. And when I was able to really dial in into being present into self and understanding what it is to be truly who David Freeman is, that's when I started to understand what my purpose and what my why was. And what happened was, while I was overseas, there's a language barrier, right? I'm in France, so the main language is not English. And what people were seeing from the team that I was playing on is, okay, wow, he's stronger, he's fast. How can we get like that? So they started asking these questions. The universal language is movement and music, right? So I necessarily didn't have to talk. I could show a lot. And when that started to translate, them getting stronger and faster to the field, and we started winning games, that's when I had that aha moment. It's like, oh, okay, this is what I should probably be doing in life. And then when I started seeing how I can change people's mindsets to a positive outlet, and for people now to become healthier and more fit, it was no turning back after that. And I knew that's where the shift happened for me.
I love it. And I should have set that up a little better for the listeners and the viewers out there. David had a successful college career. 2005, he's first team all conference for Richmond. Significant time at running back, return specialist. So there was, it wasn't like, hey, let me just see if I can make the NFL. We're talking about a guy that had a very successful college career.
Hey, and you guys can probably tell Yancy digs in deep with his research on everybody.
I was so impressed, because I interview a lot right now, and I just want to tell you, Yancy, I really appreciate your research. It is recognized, and very much I can see the work you put into it. So thank you.
Yeah.
There's nothing, and I know you guys know that there's nothing more exciting than at the end of the day when the podcast is over. It's like we've collaborated, we've networked, and we're friends. And I love the research behind getting to know our guests and just being able to dive into the stories. You guys you're amazing. I fell in love with both of you during the pandemic, watching you on so many Spartan videos. And because I think all husband and wives will sometimes we can butt heads a little bit.
We know.
So great on video together, and it's that was awesome. My wife enjoyed
we had fun.
You. I know the world enjoyed watching you.
No, we appreciate the platform. We were just talking about that. We were like, we have to do more stuff together because when we were in that quarantine time, it really brought us together in ways that we weren't planning to do. And so he's the one that was like, you got to do this workout with me. And I was like, no, I really don't want to. And that will be the only time I will be working out is during the shooting, live shooting. And David was like, we're only doing one like shot in this, or it's either live or we're going through this one time. Like, you can't mess up. So I will be dying in the middle of the workout and still smiling and still doing twists and turns. And as soon as the lights went out, I was passed out. But it was fun. We appreciate that opportunity.
For sure.
Well, I tell you what, you two, it's, you know, we're always looking, our mantra is light up the planet, right? Mm-hmm. And we are always looking for those select few that are doing that on a daily and consistent basis. And again, I keep going back to that word authenticity. David, I want to go back to you because it goes a little bit with the story that you shared. You and I talked a lot, even during the lockdown, about your story. And one of the things that I was reading this morning was you say, hey, I'm not a motivator, I'm a maximizer. Yeah. And I really love that. Explain what that means.
Yeah, so motivation, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, what motivates you? What gets me going? And that motivation is so temporary. Like it's always something that is forever changing or evolving. When you think of maximizing, that's when you're tapping into the individual and bringing out the most in that individual. So what they might not be able to see, you're starting to bring that to the surface and bring that to the light. So I'd rather maximize and get individuals to be able to operate at their fullest on their own. Because when I'm no longer, let's say no longer in the picture, as far as not, you know, constantly texting them or calling them or coaching them, guess what? They still need to know exactly what it is that gets them up every day. And it's more than just the motivation. It's them that it's within them already that existed that they're now aware of. And that's what I mean by maximizing what it is that lives within them.
I love that. I love that. And I've got a question for Mechelle. Mechelle, obviously, you have to be one of the most disciplined human beings on the planet to compete at the level that you were at, right? And, you know,
yeah.
One of our guests that we had last week was former NFL receiver JJ Burton. And we love JJ. And JJ, he really epitomizes that work like an athlete mentality post-career, not just during his career, but post-career. What are the attributes and the traits that you learned from your athletic career, and how does that translate now into your professional life?
Yeah, no, great question, because one of the things I use is the process that I went through when you tell someone you're quitting your job and you have less than 2 years to make an Olympic team and you're saying you're going to do that. And it was a clear process that I went on, and I share that because you can use that in your everyday life. But one thing was, understanding my core values, my core principles. So I knew how to calibrate along the journey. And so once you establish that, then you can understand, hey, does this decision align with what matters to me? So for instance, if faith is your core principle, and you're along the journey and you get to a spot where it's kind of shaky, you're going to have to be so grounded in that faith that it can't be unmoved. And until you're ready for that, and you really believe this in this core principle, and you're really going for it, until you're in that space, then it's going to be hard for you to continue on that journey. So you have to understand exactly who you are, what matters, what you stand for, what you don't fall for. From there, you can now have the vision, right? So now I can think big because I know my belief system is uncompromised. And so now I can say, oh, I want to make an Olympic team. And so, yeah, of course you can do that, Shell, because your faith is unshakable. You love adventure, your excellence, your level of excellence is unmoved. Of course, that's for you. And so now you can attach your core principles to that vision and move forward. And now you're in that stage of like, okay, I have to do action. So now I call this stage Do It Afraid, because now you're not going to be scared. You're going to be scared as hell. You're going to quit your job in New York City and then move to North Carolina and start training every day. And the level of discipline that takes, you're going to be scared, but yet you have to be able to move forward and be consistent in your actions, your daily actions. So here, what you're talking about as far as that discipline, now you're talking about how you know every single action and every single choice matters. And so as you operate daily, you have to understand those actions and those habits. It comes into the things that you're feeding to be able to be strong enough to keep along that path. So make sure you're pouring into what you're reading in every day, what you're listening to, what you're talking about, all those things that support that direction, right? So that's how you keep your discipline strong and feed those areas, because now you're feeding that ability to say, I want this, and this is what I have to do. So it's a constant battle between feeding and starving, you know, every day that you go through. But that's when you, at that point where you have that process in line, that you're able to keep going, keep pushing it. And I can keep going further along this journey. It's a couple more steps that you go, but I will say that you just have to apply that ability to understand that discipline and that everyday, that consistency that's so important for you to achieve.
Mic drop. That's our first mic drop right there.
Yeah, okay. Mic boom.
The editors are like, you know how you want to make that little 1 to 2 minute piece, a little pitch piece for the podcast? It's going to be something that's pulled from that right there. I get it.
Yeah.
You just, I had a question for David, but you stole it. It got pulled back over to you because you just said. You got it. Tell us talk to the listeners and the viewers out there about your program, Track Girls. I'm a huge lover of track, and for several reasons. I love that it's low barrier of entry for anybody out there. Kids can just dive in and say, yes, I can do this. Grab a pair of shoes. Talk to us about Track Girls. Here's the thing. I always tell the kids, to moms and dads, the stopwatch and the tape measure doesn't lie.
Doesn't lie.
It's pretty easy for the coach.
Right.
You're running this race because you were the fastest, or you jumped the highest, or you threw the longest. So
right. Oh my God, Track Girls. I mean, well, first of all, track and field is a sport, to your point, that just supports human movement. And so I love the sport for that, for anyone to understand how to move and how you can apply that movement to any sport or functionally. But I've been called a track girl since I was 14. I started running track in ninth grade. At the end of my ninth grade year, like I said, my first sport was basketball and then soccer. And then they were like, those fast twins have to run. And so once we got in high school, we started running, we started understanding the track girls. And so the track girls, it's a certain mood with the track girls. You have a certain look, a certain confidence. You're fast, or you're strong, or you're jumping high. And it's a sisterhood of friendships. You're traveling the world, new experiences, the access to higher education. It was so many things that I gained from the sport that I wanted to pass on to the next generation of girls. And so that's what I do with Track Girls. It's a nonprofit organization I founded to empower girls through the sport. We provide grants for girls to compete in track and field in their local communities. And then we also offer workshops where we can provide direct mentorship opportunities with world-class athletes and coaches and industry leaders, and just make our impact through the sport, which changed my life. And hopefully we can be that vessel for other girls through the organization.
Love that.
That is so powerful and such a great cause. And isn't it great when you can give back to the thing that fed you for so long? I mean, I think we all,
it was so good for me. And one thing I'll say at this time, like track and field is, really big on diversity and inclusion. And it's always like naturally embrace your authentic self. Like you can express who you are. You're able to like come out with the for us aesthetically, like the bright lipstick, if you want nails, if you want high socks, if you want braids, whatever that is to represent and express who you are. And I love that about that sport. And during this time that we're in right now, it's so important for you to be able to pull from yourself and like really empower girls and women to understand that you can be who you are. And so I'm really glad that the organization's in a place right now to continue to build on that message.
That's awesome. I love it. Listen, let's talk about kids here briefly. Obviously, you have two superheroes, as you stated, Shell.
Because of David, this is all David's idea. Yeah,
I could see David molding some superheroes, no doubt. He's doing that all over the planet. So,
yes.
What are some of the things that you implement? I like to call them rituals. You talked about being intentional and being present just a few moments ago. What are some of the things that you maybe do with your kids that would be great lessons for us as parents? And what are those lessons that you really want them to take away from you as a couple, as parents, and as a family?
Yeah, so we have our Freeman mantra. I mean, people probably have heard this. I'm not saying we created by any means, but we definitely, every morning or sometime throughout the day, we end up having them say, I'm smart, I'm strong, I'm beautiful, I can do anything. And Freeman means special. Like, so the words are powerful as far as when you're saying it over and over and over again. And what does those words mean to you? So that mantra is huge, especially at this age when they're a sponge and they're absorbing so much. The representation as far as what Shell and I, as husband and wife, also. So like we're very authentic in who we are. So all those parents out there, arguments do happen. And I know they say, don't argue in front of the kids. The reality is, in the world that we live in, if we shelter or coddle or whatever it is, that's not reality. So them seeing an argument and seeing how we make up and seeing how we hug and show each other affection, like we're showing them what life is like. And we know that we're not perfect by any means, but at the same time, I know that my mom always said, the camera's always on, someone's always watching. So you might think they're not listening or they're not hearing, but they're seeing it all. Yeah. So, I mean, huge as far as this work ethic, that we take what it is that we're doing every day and we instill that into them. We also are aware of how we think and how we do. We know that's not automatic. Like, oh, Bane's going to automatically be super coachable in football, or Harley's going to be, very, listening to everything we say. We have to understand that they are different, but at the same time, they have a lot of the traits and core values that we instill within them, but we never force anything upon them. And we just want them to be, in their happiest place, and whatever that may be as they continue to evolve. But that's our mantra. We hit them with that mantra, and then we try to just live by example.
Right. It's not perfect, but we do our best.
Hey, I love that you even...
Go ahead, JC.
I love that you even call it the Freeman mantra, because I mean, you got to put it on paper, right? And these are the principles that you're part of this family. This is how we live. And you know what? All the great companies do that. And in some ways, you got to run the family like a business.
Yes, that's so true. And you
got to tell me, is there a love for DC Comics? Because here's the thing, it's actually super villains, and I love that. And from 4 people that probably love football, JC is probably the only person who loves football more than me. Bane Freeman has got big, nasty linebacker written all over it. Are you kidding me? Bane Freeman.
No, but Bane Freeman is sensitive. He's a sensitive child. He is emotional. And that's the thing, like, even with what you say, your expectations for Bane Freeman, right? But I was pregnant during, what was the Dark Knight Rises? Yeah. And so we were watching the movie and he was like, Bane, that's a dope name. And I was like, cool, but.
I fell in love with the character, and both, even with Harley, Harley Quinn, obviously, is where that kind of comes from as well. When you look at these villains, right? It's even a quote, like, even the villain at some point in time was good, and then something that happens within the society that makes them bad. So I like Bane because it's one syllable, it's powerful. Harley, obviously, love her persona. She's a badass as well. So when you look at those personas, Bane was a protector. And Bane was a protector. Yeah. So like when you look at their personas and what they make of their name, their name itself it comes from that, but they're going to make their own name.
Don't try to spin it. They live up to the villain that, like, a nature that is expected with those names. Let me say that. And like I said, I was pregnant both movies, and the first one he was like, "We're naming him Bane," and I was like, "No, we're not," and here we are. And then with Harley, I was pregnant doing Suicide Squads, and someone was like, "You have to go with this name. You already got Bane," and I actually liked it, so I was like, "Boom." There it is. So, but not DC comic fans, like, at all. Like, I'm
Marvel in DC.
Love it. All right. So here's the question. Okay. So Yancy's on one side of the track. I'm on the other. Yancy's at the starting line. He's got the starting gun. Okay. I'm 100 meters down. Okay. You two are at the starting line. We're talking about right now. Okay. I know you've both been training hard. You've been training one another. I don't know if you're giving each other every secret you have in the toolbox. Okay. But I'm at the end. Who am I going to see first at the end of that 100 meters?
100 meters.
Ooh. Okay. He has a 100-meter head start.
No. we got to set this up for the listeners real quick. In 2008 Olympic trials, this girl ran a 10.9. Guys, listen, I mean, we're talking 10.9. There's very few men walking the planet that can go sub 11 fully auto. So this is Jarod and I are excited to hear this answer.
Right. Okay. Wait. So who's all lined up? David.
Right
me?
now, just the two of
you and David.
Starting blocks. We got spikes on.
Oh,
let's just say we're even under the lights at maybe in Oregon.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Racing each other in 100 meters.
Yeah, let's go back to Hayward Field. David and I'm in lane 4. David's in lane 6. And don't think about 2 years ago when we did this exact setup and he pulled his hamstring pretty bad trying to keep us up. So now we're in a different space now, okay? Now David's on the line. He's thinking about that loss. He wants revenge. And, he's setting himself up mentally for this race. We get in the blocks. We're going down in the blocks. I'm already ready. I'm a starter. I already know I'm going to get out with that. I'm going to make them shake. I'm going to break them from the beginning. First step. The gun is up. Boom, we're out. I'm out as usual. I'm out. I'm lifting. I'm hitting. I'm executing technique. I'm on. I'm about like 4 steps in front of them, right? What's going on, David?
I just want to hear the rest. Go ahead, keep going. I just want to see how she maps us out. Keep going.
Well, this time he doesn't strain his hamstring or pull it at 30 meters. He's still trying to hang in there, and he's coming down the track. Shell's still in the lead. It's still close. I'm about 7 meters ahead at this point. Yeah, it's okay, David. That's okay. David's trying to push because my tail end of the race is not my best. And so he tries to close a little bit. We cross the line. However, Shell still wins by the dip.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I like that. That's a good
real
finish.
Quick, what was your 60-meter PR?
Oh my gosh, it wasn't even as fast as it should have been. It was not fast at all. Yeah, it was 7.2.
So this is a question we don't always ask, but this is perfect because we're all coaches here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to preface this with, so David gets his first gym job. And by the way, listeners and viewers, personal trainer of the year, his first 3 years there. He's personal trainer of the year.
You are good.
So I want you to talk to the listeners and the viewers. I'll ask the question, but then I want you to do a deep dive on this.
Okay.
2-part. What does it take? Been playing football our whole life, and we're a criminal justice degree. And then we jump in and we personal trainer of the year the first 3 years. Okay, the United States government says, okay, you 4, David, Mechelle, Jarod, and Yancy, you are in charge. We're putting you 4 in charge of improving the fitness culture because it's a hot freaking mess right now across the globe, United States. It's pretty much a hot mess, not debatable. We are in charge of it. I want to hear both of you two, like, what are some key bullet points? Go back to those personal training days and what you've learned since then, working at Alpha. What are some of the key things we need to implement immediately to start improving the fitness culture?
The principles and the core values, you got to start there. You got to drill that in. And it all starts from that foundation, because we can have the best playbook in the world as far as how to execute X, Y, and Z. We got to keep coming back to the integrity as far as what our core values and what our principles are. And if it doesn't align to those core values or principles, then we should be able to easily identify why it did not work. But if we stick to those core values and principles as our foundation and build from there, we're going to win. I use this, and just because the Super Bowl just happened, people always were asking, as far as like the Bill Belichick or the Tom Brady effect, based off of, who was it, right? Bill Belichick, amazing coach, one of the best ever to do it, right? What I always tell people is that playbook, those plays of whatever needs to be executed, those things are very valuable, but it's still the Tom Brady or whoever else that is executing it that makes it come to life. So the foundation, now we have the Bill Belichick playbook, right? We have the principles, we have the core values. Now we still need those players, those key players to make it all come to life. So we start from the foundation, we stick with our core values and our principles, and then we put the key players in place, and that's what's going to elevate and take us to the next level.
Yeah, I like that. And then I also want to think about being intentional with how we fuel ourselves and understanding how, like, what you put in from how nutrition and fitness come together as a functional aspect. And so when you start to understand how you fuel your mind and body together, just on a daily basis of what, from the beginning, when I wake up in the morning, I'm intentional about what I eat for breakfast and what I'm putting in, and I understand, and it's the why behind things. And then you're being intentional with, it's not about, when people just eat all day, it's not clear on what they're working on. That's anything. Like, if you're not clear about what you're doing, then you're just doing, right? And that's, I'm not saying I'm intentional every day. I just know when I'm intentional and when I'm not. I know if I'm just doing whatever, or if I know if I'm working towards blah, blah, blah. I feel like in the fitness industry, we can understand how that translates to functional just capability. So every day, just applying that, I want to be a better functional human being, and how that translates to fitness, because that's a part of it. Then once you get to that space and just saying every day, I just want to function optimal, like David said, to maximum potential, then you'll understand what it takes to fuel yourself, what you're putting in your body, why movement makes sense. And then now you're in this space where we have this technology and we're not face to face and things like that. And so now we see the accessibility has changed. And so you don't need certain things that your mind thought you needed before. And now you can move in ways and be open to new ways to just get that functional movement in, and to understanding that now you can make big change just every day.
So let me piggyback off that. So those pillars that align to the core values to give you a little bit more objective for our listeners and viewers. So one, mindset. So make sure whoever's listening or watching, write it down, mindset. Two is going to be that sleep. And we're going to obviously sprinkle things down from the pillar, right? As far as what that means objectively, as far as sleep. Management of stress, nutrition, and then the last one, guess what, everybody? Movement. But yet the last one is usually what everybody puts first and expects the result from just the movement, and they disregard the other four that I just mentioned.
When I hear that, you may not be running down that track like you once were. You may not be on that football field like you once were, but you guys are dominating this sport called life. And you guys just showed the pillars of why. So I appreciate you guys. I know Yancy feels the same way. I can't wait to read Yancy's stat sheet. I'm sure he's got a whole nother list of notes on you guys, but thank you so much for taking the time today. You guys are role models out there for the fitness world, for parents, for couples. I just can't thank you enough for coming on today's show.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the DEKA Series on SpartanUp Podcast. SpartanUp is your partner in resilience for mind, body, and spirit. We're here 3 days every week. Tuesdays, you can find Joe DeSena, founder and CEO of Spartan, interviewing biohackers, business leaders, authors, and athletes. Thursdays and Saturdays, catch episodes from our DEKA, Endurance, Trail, Combat, and La Ruta series. Do you know someone who needs a little nudge? Maybe they could use some motivation, tactics to be stronger, healthier, happier, more successful. Tell them about our show. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. We want to know who's watching and who's listening. Thanks. See you next time. Today's episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by BetterHelp. Spartan Up listeners can save 10% on their first month by going to betterhelp.com/Spartan.